You're tuning into Black and White Sports on YouTube. The no-holds-barred truth on sports. The main event starts.
All right, Black and White Sports supporters, let's talk about the Las Vegas Raiders. We're going to talk a little bit about Tom Brady, as much like we've talked about. This GM search, this coaching search, it's his ball game. It's his show, and he's running it right now. Of course, Mark Davis gave him the permission to do that, but he's also part owner in this team, even though it's a minority part. He's obviously the GOAT, and he pulls a lot of weight. And we've got a couple of guys that have emerged in this process and the backup plan, all right? At least as of right now, what it looks like. And it looks like they would like to hire Ben Johnson as coach and John Spytek as the general manager. Spytek has a relationship with Brady going back years and years, and he's got a resume too. And he's kind of a guy, when you look at his resume, you think to yourself, well, he's about due for a general manager's job. And it just so happens, Adam Schefter just put out just a little while ago today, the Bucs assistant GM, John Spytek, is scheduled to interview for a second time this week for the Raiders general manager's job, per a source, okay? Packers VP of Personnel, John Eric Sullivan, at least they have requested an interview with him. So, right here, this is Tom's show now. Right here, this is from the Las Vegas News-Journal. All right, a person with knowledge of the situation told the Journal, quote, "This is Tom's show now. Davis, who has said he wants Brady to have a huge voice in Raiders football operations, will still make the final call. But he has immense trust in Brady, who has cultivated a personal and professional relationship the last few years." Now, look, the one thing that I think is going to hurt them in all is they don't have a quarterback right now. All right, and this draft, I don't think it's very good as far as quarterbacks go. Could you see some teams elevate some quarterbacks that don't need to be elevated? Yeah. You know, kind of in the way we all look back and all of a sudden Zach Wilson's the number 2 pick in the draft, and everybody was like, where the hell did he come from? You know, I mean, yeah, BYU, but a year earlier, nobody would have been like, we're not doing that. But a lot of people figure Sanders, Ward, going to be the top 2 quarterbacks in the draft. Quinn Ewers needs to go back to school, okay? He's not ready. Carson Beck went back to school, went to Miami. I'd say that was a very good idea, okay? I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not high on any of these quarterbacks coming out at all, all right? Now, this talks about Vance Joseph of the Broncos getting an interview, but I do not think that's where he wants to go, and I'm talking about Brady. Everyone has been talking about the impression that Ben Johnson made on Tom Brady and company Friday. There doesn't seem to be a single NFL media type who doesn't think Johnson is a favorite to get the job. But as the Washington Commanders learned a year ago, it can be difficult to predict what Ben Johnson is going to do. If he doesn't end up with the Raiders, the backup option in Las Vegas appears to be a veteran coach with a Super Bowl on his resume. According to Las Vegas Review-Journal, things are, quote, lining up for Johnson and the Raiders. But if Johnson doesn't take the job, Pete Carroll will likely be the number 2 option. Guys, I think if you look up as a Raiders organization and you got Pete Carroll, a legendary USC and Seattle Seahawks coach, if you look up and you end up with Pete Carroll, he's going to field a competitive team, all right? So, I don't know. Everybody wants Johnson, but you could go worse than Pete Carroll. There are some that believe Carroll was the favorite to get the job. Interesting. Sports Illustrated insider Hondo Carpenter, he's got a good podcast. I listen to it quite often. mentioned a candidate the team wanted to hear from before parting ways with Antonio Pierce. And it's fair to wonder if that candidate might have been Pete Carroll. So Pete Carroll's name may have been percolating while Antonio Pierce was still there. There haven't been any reports to how Carroll's interview went on Monday, but there shouldn't be a lot the veteran coach should have to prove. The only knock on Carroll is he's 73. But I got to give Raiders Beat some credit here. They said the same thing I did. If we're keeping it real, he looks a lot healthier than some much younger coaches. Absolutely. And I think we all know that. Now, when it comes to Ben Johnson and the Raiders, he may take the job, but they don't have a quarterback. And I think that could actually hurt the Raiders in all of this. And there's some speculation that Shad Khan and the Jags really want Ben Johnson. And, look, I think a lot, at least from what I can gauge from social media is out on Trevor Lawrence. But there's always a disconnect between the fans and the actual NFL, okay? I can tell you right now, the NFL is not out on Trevor Lawrence at all. All right? And if you're Ben Johnson, I think he looks at a quarterback like Trevor Lawrence and he's like, I can turn him in to something much better than he's been. And let's be honest, Sean McVay gave up on Jared Goff, who has done nothing but hooked up with Ben Johnson and kicked ass. Let's be honest, all right? Jared Goff has looked really good. And if you're wondering where Trevor Lawrence has been lately or where he's right down here, this is PFF's grade for Trevor Lawrence for 2024. They got him as the 18th ranked quarterback in the National Football League. All right, in case you're wondering, Jared Goff is currently 12th. But for much of the season, Jared Goff was up here in the top 6. So I'm just putting that out there. I think he identifies, Ben Johnson identifies Trevor Lawrence as having real potential. And they got Brian Thomas down there at wide receiver. So I don't know. Of course, everybody thinks he's interested in the Bears job. I really wonder about that, to be honest. But the equalizer in all this for Ben Johnson, I think, is Tom Brady. So we're going to have to see. But Tom Brady and them evidently really liked what Ben Johnson had to say. So it's going to be interesting to see. Ben Johnson is the number one choice with the Raiders. John Spytek, I assume, would be the number one choice regardless of coach, unless Pete Carroll or somebody like that said, look, I like this guy from blah. Then they would probably interview blah, and they already know who that is. Maybe that's the Green Bay guy that they just requested an interview with. But considering the connection that Spytek's got with Brady, which is a very long connection, all right, and he's been around the NFL for like over 20 years, then yeah, it's probably who I'm guessing who the Raiders going to end up getting is Spytek at general manager. Maybe wrong. So, but that's where you stand right now if you're the Raiders. It's Ben Johnson and Spytek, Pete Carroll, and we don't exactly know who the general manager would be at that point. Maybe it's still him. My gut feeling is if Brady wants the guy, that's who it's going to end up being. I think the Raiders are in a pretty good spot right now. If that's your two top candidates, I really thought Cliff Kingsbury would come roaring in this whole thing with the Raiders. But there's word that he's going to end up doing a Ben Johnson, what Ben Johnson did the last couple of years. Cliff Kingsbury is going to be picky about the job that he decides to take. All right? So, just putting that out there, that he's going to be choosy. So, we'll have to see. His name has come up with the Cowboys now. Will the Raiders interview Mike McCarthy? If they're interviewing Pete Carroll, are they going to have McCarthy in? My gut feeling is I don't think so. I don't know. I just can't see Tom Brady being real moved by Mike McCarthy. but I could see him moved by Pete Carroll. So if that tells you anything, tell me what you think. Peace. I'm out. Till next time.
Thanks for watching the show. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to tune in next time on Black and White Sports.